Hey everyone, my name is Bola. I'm the founder and CEO of Clever Girl Finance. I'm also the author of the new book, Choosing to Prosper, Triumphing Over Adversity, Breaking Out of Comfort Zones, and Achieving Your Life and Money Dreams, which comes out this summer 2022. Welcome to Clever Girl Finance TV and to a new episode of Real Women Talk Money. So today I have two amazing women who are also part of Team Clever Girl Finance joining me today.
Hi everyone, my name is Carli and I'm the social media creator here at Clever Girl Finance.
Hi, I'm Yazmir and I'm the content creator for Clever Girl Finance.
And today we're going to be talking about relationships and why you should not settle in a relationship or for a relationship. And to give you some context, in my new book, Choosing to Prosper, I talk about overcoming different challenges, including getting clear about who I felt was the right life partner for myself. And so when it comes to relationships, I think a lot of times women are pressured to settle down by family, by social media, by how old you are. But I think it is very important that you first get clear with who you are and what you want for yourself, because that in turn will allow you to build a partnership in a relationship that works for you, and also helps you manage your money accordingly, because money is very integral to relationships. So we're going to talk about, why you shouldn't settle, how you shouldn't settle. And so have you felt pressured to settle down? So I'm married and you both are single, but I'll start and I'll tell you that yes, when I was single, the pressure was on. When are you gonna get married? Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You mean you don't want to get married? You mean you want to go get a graduate degree? What about getting married? Why aren't you getting married? The pressure was like
All the questions.
all the time. So I felt it, and it wasn't just from family. It was also from friends. Oh, are you dating? Oh, have you guys talked about getting married? Oh, when is he gonna propose?
Yeah.
What do you tell me?
Deep breath.
Deep breath.
Yeah, no, at this point in my life, definitely feels like the pressure is on, for sure, for me. Those conversations come up at least weekly, honestly. Like, I'm a little bit over it, but they come up too often.
What about you? Yes.
I have a partner and we're both feeling the pressure of when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna move in together? This is not normal.
It can be a lot, and I think that pressure can be heavy. I dated a guy that I knew I would never marry. As I got into the progression of the relationship, I knew I would never, this ain't never gonna happen. I can never marry you. In fact, I will be breaking up with you at some point. I just haven't decided when.
We'll just put that out there.
But as soon as everyone met him, oh my God, have you guys been talking about it? And even after we broke up, it was such a burden to be able to tell friends and family that I had broken up with this person, because the feedback was almost like, wow, so you're going to be starting over to find a husband? But what about my happiness?
Right.
What about finding the right person for
Right.
me? So I have some questions to ask you guys about relationships, and we're going to talk about how not to settle, why not to settle. And one thing I wanted to share with those of you who are watching is that these questions apply regardless of your relationship status. You might be single, you might be married, you might be wanting to exit a relationship, you might be divorced. That is all perfectly fine, right? Again, we're talking about how not to settle and how to create a relationship that works for you, where you and your partner are on the same page. So this conversation, regardless of your relationship status, is going to be helpful. So the first question is, how would you describe the qualities that you want your ideal partner to possess?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I mean, that's a lot. Okay, so obviously, I'm single, and so for me, when I think about what maybe these ideal qualities might be, things that I look for are good communication. Communication's so important to me. I've had relationships in the past where communication was the one piece where things really fell apart, and when you can't communicate, that's really difficult. So just communication, I think transparency, and then also someone who's just willing to be open, just doesn't need to be closed off or feel like they have to have everything together, but someone who's just willing to be their authentic selves. And so I think that all those things combined are things that I try to do myself as well. And so I would want for that to be kind of, reciprocated in that way too. but yeah, those are just some things that are in my head.
Well, I can't say like an ideal partner because I have one. He might be watching this. I say, what are you talking
Well,
about?
how is he your ideal partner?
He like the thing I love most about my partner is the support, and also like our goals align, which is so important because if our goals are different, like polar opposites, like it's just not gonna work out in the long run.
And I asked this question about qualities because once you've been able to reflect on who you are, it's easier for you to define the qualities you're looking for in someone else, right? So after that boyfriend I had that I knew I was never going to marry, I really had to sit and think about, okay, why was I even dating this person in the first place, right? If sometimes it's hard to determine who someone is before you get to know them really well, but sometimes there's things that you know early on that I just can't deal with. This is non-negotiable for me. And so I really had to sit back and say, okay, what are things that I just don't want in a person for me, and what are the things that I do want, right? So the qualities that are incredibly important to me are being an honest person, being a hardworking person, having ambition, being a kind person, right? Those are things that I would want because those are things that I am or I aspire to be. So it's important that you get clear on the qualities you're looking for, even if you're in a relationship, because that's something that you can actively work towards with your partner, especially if you want your relationship to work, right? So that's the first thing. So the second question is, what are some of your non-negotiables in a relationship, and what are the things that you can tolerate? Because that's also really important to know, right? Because before you get serious in a relationship, or while a relationship is getting serious, it's all warm and fuzzy. But you will get to a point, and I can attest to this, where you absolutely will not like each other. Right? And it is those things that you can tolerate, tied in with those values, that will keep you together until you get over that hump.
Right.
So what are some of your non-negotiables and some of the things that you're willing to let slide?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to touch on, because it's definitely like you want to have these values and things that you look at through, because you don't want to just go be with someone just like, oh yeah, why not? You know, not taking into account any of your goals or aspirations or certain values. So it's hard for me sometimes to find the line between, you know, keeping that, you know, as one of the things at the forefront, but then also like sometimes I'm like, am I being too like picky, or there's certain things I need to budge on a little bit? So I think that for me, the biggest thing that's a non-negotiable would be more so along like the faith aspect of sharing the same faith and core beliefs in that. And then the things that I can definitely budge on are, I feel like the little things, like the nitpicky things, like, you know, if they like certain music or if they like this or that. Like, I think that there's certain differences that are okay too, because we're not going to be the same about everything. But I think that faith aspect of having those same core beliefs is probably the most important thing for me, that I wouldn't want to align with, just because if that's not where I'm headed, if we're headed in the opposite directions, when push comes to shove, it's not going to be good for us. So
What about you, Yazmir?
And well, non-negotiable for me is, you know, not allowing me to grow professionally, and you know, get more money, because Latinos, like the Latino men specifically, they're of the belief that the man should be making the money, and the woman, like, she can work if she wants to, but he has to bring in the money. But you know, it's not that right now. This year is the first year that I'm surpassing my partner as far as salary goes, and you know, luckily he's been just very supportive, and I know it's hard for him because other Latinos are like, wow, like your girl's making more money than you. You need to step it up. Yeah, no, it's he's happy with where he is now, and that's something, you know, I can budge. I don't need him to make more money. As long as he's hardworking, and ambitious and supports my dreams and goals.
Yeah, that's for me. This similar. My non-negotiable is you cannot be unambitious. You cannot be lazy. You can't sit back and expect things to happen to you if you haven't made the effort. And I see that very quickly in somebody, not just in relationships. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a hustler, so I need another hustler. Anyone, if you don't have that team mentality. And I remember when I first started dating my husband, he would ask me questions. I'm like, wow, this guy has a team mentality. Like, when do you think you're going to have your first $1 million? When do you think you're going to do this and do that? He had that ambition, that drive. And my other boyfriend did not. He's like, oh, can you borrow me?
Oh.
Can you spot me a couple hundred?
No.
No, I cannot.
No.
You don't have a job. You can't pay me back.
No thanks. Not happening.
So not having that team mentality in terms of us building our life together and not being ambitious, that I can be flexible in many things. Those two things, because I know myself, right? I imagine that if I did not marry someone who had those two values, I would be divorced because I would be so frustrated, right? And I see that happen a lot where one person in a relationship is incredibly ambitious and the other person is not only unambitious, but they're not supportive. And they put that person down, especially when you get over that warm and fuzzy hump of, oh, we're in love. When you get to the point where you don't like each other in your relationship, because that happens when you go through rough patches or you have a fight. And because they were never supportive and never ambitious to begin with, then they see that other person and then they put them down. Or jealousy, envy, anger, aggression. Many things form when you both are not aligned with the same values. So I think in relationships it's really important to be clear on your non-negotiables. Do not settle. You can't tolerate this. This thing's going to drive you crazy. Don't settle, right? There's no outside pressure that's worth you settling for what you don't want, what is not going to serve you, what is going to make you unhappy, right? And it might be something else. We're talking about ambition here. We're talking about team mentality. We're talking about faith. But for whoever is watching this, it might be something completely different for you. And that's fine. But don't settle for what you can't tolerate, what is going to make you unhappy. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was just getting on the same page with your partner in terms of your goals and your ambitions, because I find that can also be challenging. Just getting on the same page of how you plan to build wealth, how you plan to manage your finances, where you plan to be on this in 5 years, what are your joint goals, my career, your business, my business, kids, all that kind of stuff. How do you get on the same page? Are you on the same page? Have you been on the same page? How have you made it work? Because this can be, you can get into this relationship. They have all the values, they have all the characteristics, but you just cannot get on the same page, right? That's a challenge for many people. So let's talk about it a bit. So Yazmir, you can start.
Yes. So when my partner and I first started dating, we didn't talk about our goals or money. I was, just working and not really thinking about the future. But then I got to a point where, okay, I'm gonna get those promotions, build wealth. And then I found myself thinking, well, I've never had this conversation with my partner. If our values and our goals don't align, as much as I love him, it's not going to work out. But then I had that talk with him, and we have similar visions, and we're working as a team to make those things happen. At first, he admitted he was a spender, but throughout the years he's been saving money. A couple of years ago he started investing, which was something that he was not comfortable with, but in seeing that I was doing it and the wealth that I'm starting to build, he wanted to do this thing for himself.
Yeah, for me it's getting on the same page is just a lot of communication, right? For the most part, my husband and I are on the same page, or we've gotten to the same page on our goals. And for the ones that we were not on the same page, right? In the early stages of our marriage, it will cause disagreements. right? Because why are we not on the same page? This is what I want. No, this is what I want. And then we don't solve anything, and everybody goes their own path. And so for me, it was really learning compromise and learning how to be an effective communicator. Because sometimes, I feel like I can tend to shut down if the conversation is not going the way I want it to go. And then that ends the conversation, but it doesn't help us address the issue of why we're not on the same page. So learning how to be that effective communicator, to be patient, to compromise. And he's had to do that as well. Because it's not just a one-sided.
Yeah,
no,
right.
Listen, relationships are not one-sided. It's not just you. Okay?
No.
Yeah, so it's two of you. So he's had to learn that. And I find that maintaining, because as life happens, goals change, ambitions shift, remaining on the same page requires, for us, that constant communication and that constant review, even when one of us doesn't want to talk about it. And I'm sure my husband will have his own idea of this, but from my opinion, I've had to learn when is a good time to have a favorable conversation. And we talked about this on the podcast. Was it me and you, or an episode we did? Or I did another episode with another guest where we talked about finding the right time to talk to your partner. Right. I had to learn that my husband was not receptive when he's about to get into bed because he's exhausted, he's tired. Right. But I love to talk as I'm getting into bed. And then I would get annoyed because he's not responding, and then it would turn into a fight, and then everybody goes to bed angry. I know the advice they give you, don't ever go to bed angry. I go to bed angry. I do it. I will go to bed angry, and I will also wake up angry. That's how I roll. And so I have to realize, wait a minute, this guy, it's because he's tired. So when I catch him in the morning, or even when he's sitting down after dinner, that's a great time to talk, because he will talk, he's chatty, he's conversational. But that moment where he's getting into bed, I'm like, let's talk about our life goals. He's like, dude, I just want to sleep.
I just want to go to bed.
He's like, woman, I'm tired. I didn't get that. So I had to understand kind of like what they say about learning your partner's love language and them learning yours, so that you know how best to communicate, when to communicate, what works. That's basically, and I would say for relationships where you're not on the same page, right? It's learning the compromise. It is learning effective communication. It's finding your partner's love language. But again, it's not just you. It's also them making the effort to do it. And no shame in seeking counseling. If you need a third party to intervene, a neutral third party, not your mom, not his or her best friend,
does not work.
Not their ally, a neutral person, like a therapist, like a counselor, to come in and intervene. That's fine, as long as you're both willing to save your relationship. And sometimes, especially when it comes to finances, it can be difficult to get on the same page. Spender versus saver, debt-free versus in debt, student loans versus no student loans, how we plan to save for the future, how much we want to save for retirement, who's going to pay for what. It can be very complex. And sometimes it's challenging for you to do it on your own, especially when you've gone to the point where you're just hitting walls every time you try to do it together. So having someone come in, as long as you're both willing to save your relationship, can be helpful as well. What are you committed to doing to building a relationship that works without you having to settle?
Yeah, I think for me, so again, with my perspective of looking ahead, I'm just thinking about, the importance of having conversations that might feel uncomfortable. For me, I'm kind of at a point in my life where I'm like, I know what I want. And so if that's something that I'm going to pursue, I want to have these conversations about saving, about debt, about finances in general, but then also just about, are we on the same page?
Yes.
Because for me personally, unfortunately, I've had a lot of experiences where in the dating realm, it's hard for me to find someone that is on the same page. I've sat down at dates before, and I've had a guy tell me once, like, I'm a little bit intimidated. And I was like, why? And he was like, I've never really talked to a girl that's so ambitious before. And I'm like, that puts me in a position where I'm like, is that a compliment, or is it also kind of concerning, because I don't know how to respond to that. So it's hard to find someone for me that's on the same.
That's not the person for you.
Yeah, no.
Someone's going to be intimidated by you? Nope.
That's why I was like, this isn't going to work. This was fun. It was only one date, but this was fun.
See ya.
That was good. That was it. So I think that for me, just having those conversations up front and being very transparent about, like, are we going to continue this or not? And then like knowing there needs to be a decision that's made. So I think just being upfront and very just straightforward, because I don't want to play games. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yes, I feel the same way. Just talking to your partner, letting them know, like, hey, these are my goals. Like, are you with me? Like, my partner and I have been together for nearly 10 years, and like
Wow.
for the first half, I didn't feel comfortable having that conversation with him or talk about money because I was worried about like he might think, oh, you love money and money is bad, because that's what I heard growing up. So it was nerve-wracking. But I thought of like the importance of that, because I did want us to continue together, to have that conversation and why it's important. And luckily, like, he's on board, and we're both working towards what we want.
Yeah. For me, it's recognizing, so how I'm being committed to building a relationship that works, it's recognizing that I have big ambitions, but my husband also has his own ambitions, and it's not just about me. And it's being able to discuss both of our ambitions to see how we can align them for our partnership, for what we're trying to build with our lives and for our kids. And there was some advice I got that has been very impactful to me, and it's that in a relationship, in a marriage, you're not always going to agree on everything. In fact, there's some things that you will never agree on, but you have to be able to talk about them, and you have to be able to respect the other person's opinion and state what you feel without holding them back, unless it's being detrimental, becoming detrimental to your joint goals, your joint vision, your joint rate. So for example, my husband wants to buy a motorcycle. That's not a vision I have. It's not a goal I have, right? But for example, I have to respect that maybe one day he's going to be like, you know what? I want to go buy this motorcycle. He's talking about this for like 10 years, but maybe he never will. But it's just something that we don't agree on, and we will likely never agree on. Doesn't mean that our relationship is going to be destroyed because somebody wants to buy a motorcycle and one person doesn't want to buy a motorcycle, right? So it's just understanding, and also me being willing to compromise, right? There are some things that I've had to let go because he has given me every opportunity to pursue my goals and ambitions, and there's this one thing that he really wants to do, and I step back so that he can also feel like he's also accomplishing the things that he wants for himself in his own personal life. So it's compromise. It's being able to talk about it, being able to disagree but be okay with it, being able to have those hard conversations, remind yourselves of why you're doing this, why you're together, what your future vision is, and being respectful of each other. And if you need the support from third parties, if you want to save your relationship, then that is worth it as well. I remember my husband and I went to premarital counseling, and we had so many disagreements because there were just so many things that we did not agree on. I'm like, oh, that's never gonna happen. Nope, never.
Nope.
Right? But that's kind of like the early stages of where I had to learn compromise in my relationship. And so, yeah, that's, so in relationships, again, don't settle. You want to remember who you are, what you want for yourself, and align those things to the person you want in your life. And as we get older, you may already be in a relationship and you may just be finding yourself, or your ideas of what you want for yourself might change. Then you communicate. Then you talk about it. Then you compromise. And sometimes these are not overnight things. Sometimes it takes years, months, weeks, right? Especially when you're evolving or they're evolving and you're already in this relationship. But if it's worth saving to you, then you put in the effort, you put in the work. Relationships are work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. And so it's just, I always tell women, remember who you are. Remember what you want for yourself. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with a woman who feels resentment because she feels like she gave up everything to support her partner's goals and she had nothing left for herself. And then sometimes the relationship ends and there's even more anger and resentment. So don't lose yourself. You can still have a successful relationship, successful marriage, and still be who you want to be, still be ambitious, still achieve your goals, still have kids, still do all the things, not have kids, whatever it is that you want for yourself. But don't lose yourself and don't settle. So if you are single, set the bar high for yourself and the ambitions you have for yourself, and find someone who aligns with you. If you are currently in a relationship, work with your partner so that you continue to maintain and build the same values and stay on the same page, even if you don't agree on everything. I hope you guys have enjoyed tuning into this episode of Real Women Talk Money. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below, subscribe to this channel, and you can follow us on Instagram at CleverGirlFinance, and stop by clevergirlfinance.com to check out our over 30 plus completely free courses. Finally, please pick up a copy of Choosing to Prosper, available for pre-order. It drops this summer 2022, and it is available everywhere you buy your books as ebook, audiobook, and physical book formats. We will talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.